Stands to the pledge, please. Just happened to be the first person I made eye contact with. That was it. Yeah. All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. That will bring us to reports and Health Services Program evaluation.
All right, we're pleased to have Director of Health Services Denise Holmberg with us to deliver her program evaluation. Welcome.
People were setting on both groups, so we merged those two groups together, and we still meet once a quarter. One of our other jobs is to maintain the student health records, monitor, report communicable diseases. So once a week on Fridays, we report anything that has been reported to us in every building. We have a checklist of symptoms that we also report. The health department then is able to kind of keep ahead of what's coming. Seems to happen in schools before it hits the rest of the community. So we report everything from strep, COVID, flu cases, anything that's been reported to us along with all of the different symptoms. We perform all of the health screenings. We still do vision and hearing screenings in all of our elementaries. We screen all kindergarten, first, third, and fifth grade students and make the referrals for those as needed for children that are struggling. Special education students are also screened annually. We review and enforce policies, write and update board policies, and make changes as needed. General information, I'm thrilled to report that I've had no full-time staff changes since my last eval. Knock on wood. Have lost a couple of subs. So one of my future goals is to build up a sub pool. I've started working on that. I worked all day today training 2 new subs to start working in the health rooms. So that will be good to get them up and running. Right now, you'll see on the bottom of the list, I have Misty Killian on the list. She is our pretty much a full-time sub. She's always working somewhere for someone. So she's always here. She's here as often as my full-time employees are. Accomplishments of the last 2 years. The biggest accomplishment definitely has been the initiation of stocking medications in the health room. That is something that's very new to Green Valley, something that we had never done before. It's been an adjustment, but I think everybody is accustomed now to having them. We've actually had to use our inhalers multiple times. Luckily, we've not had to use EpiPens or Narcan at this point. I was able to find some resources to pay for all of those medications. So up until now, it's not cost the district anything for us to stock these medications, which is pretty expensive. So I'm very fortunate to have been able to find help with those. We also updated the policies and procedures to cover those stocked medications, as you know. We are currently providing assistance to 150 families with our Giving the Basics. So Giving the Basics has been a blessing to us. At a high school level, we have 3 to 4 students that either don't have running water at home or don't have the access to personal hygiene at home to the point where they shower in our health room. So we have a constant parade of kids coming into the health room just for hygiene products. So it's been a blessing for our students and their families. We would like to, or one of the things that we continued was our Toilet Talk publication. So for those of you that are not familiar with the Toilet Talk, that's a publication that usually once a month or every 6 weeks We put a publication in the restrooms at the high school, in every stall, in every restroom, that is some sort of educational topic for the students. Over the holidays, we did one on community resources that were available to them if anybody needed anything with contact information. We've done some on fentanyl and what to look for. We've done vaping. Vaping is always one that gets a big response because it is so popular. So a little bit of everything. And we do that quite frequently. And I actually brought some with me. If anybody has not seen those, you can take a look at what. Other accomplishments, I would say more than anything, we train. We train, we train, we train, and we train. We have Robin and Stacy and I mainly are CPR instructors. So we do a lot of CPR training. I feel it's very important that we have as many staff as possible CPR trained. We offer 2 classes a year to all employees that anyone can sign up for, and anyone is welcome to attend, and we do not charge for those classes. So to go take the class in the general public is around $60 to $80 per class for people to go take that, and we do it free of charge because we think it's that important. We also train all of our Valley Kids staff in first aid and CPR. They are all certified in CPR and first aid. All of our bus drivers are trained in first aid, CPR. All of our early childhood employees are CPR certified, and all of the members of our cardiac emergency response teams in every building are CPR certified. So that's something that we try to keep up on as best as we possibly can. We used to actually had an ongoing list of everyone in every building that was certified, so that we had a list in the AED machine with our AED machines at all times of everyone that was certified, but it got kind of out of control because Misha started allowing coaches to take CPR online, so they weren't providing us a copy of their certification card, and it wasn't being tracked in that way. So it made it a little more difficult, but we still have at least 15 to 20 people in every building that are CPR certified at all times, so that's a good thing. Goals for next year. I would say the biggest goal for me would be to build on our student wellness initiatives, continuing the toilet talks, and to build on our staff wellness initiatives. CWC has gone through several wellness coordinators in the last few years, and they've kind of have not been doing the staff things that we used to do. So I've talked to Sherry at Consiglio, and through the Student Health Advisory Council and the Staff Wellness Committee, we plan to hit it pretty hard with some good staff initiatives for wellness. Start doing some challenges, fitness challenges, nutrition challenges, whatever, just something to get staff involved. We talked about this spring kicking off some bingo cards. You know, the staff like to participate in that kind of thing, and CWC is pretty good about providing us with prizes for those. So that's something that we plan to work on in the next year. 3 to 5 year goals, like I said, one is to build a sub pool. I would like to have at least 3 or 4 subs that are available at most times. I usually don't have that many staff members gone, but when I do, it's very difficult for us to cover health rooms and do the things that we need to be doing. So that would be great for my department. And another goal would be to continue to foster our partnerships with our community health providers. Jackson County Health Department is wonderful to work with us and come out and provide our incoming 8th graders and our incoming 12th graders with their required vaccines to help us not have to send quite so many kids home on the first day of school. They usually allow us to sign up 150 in the day that they come out total. So we would do 50 at each middle school, 50 at the high school, and I would say 88 or 90 is the highest we've ever had total show. So I would like to see more people take advantage of that rather than wait until summertime to try to get the vaccinations and then them not be available. Because we are, as you know, not allowed to let them start school without the required vaccines. So, health room activity summary. This is always a good one. The number of health room visits obviously increase every year. The last 23-24 school year, we ended up with a little over 35,000 health room visits. 2,350 of those resulted in the students being sent home. So that's a good thing we were back under 7%. For years and years and years, we always stayed under 7%, and then the COVID years totally blew that out of the water. So now we seem to be a little more back to normal. We're back down to 6.7% of our visits result in someone being sent home. So that's kind of our ultimate goal, is to do what we have to do to remove learning barriers and keep these kids in school as much as we possibly can. Students with significant health issues is something that continues to grow. We have 22 students on insulin pumps that are diabetic now, 48 kids with seizure disorders, 35 kids with life-threatening food allergies, and we're up to 378 children with pretty significant mental disorders. So that's a very sad number, but something that we try to do as much as we can to help with. Questions?
Does the CPR, is it American Red Cross or is it American Heart?
American Heart Association.
Okay. And how was the rollout with the Narcan in terms
With-
of
with
when
Narcan?
when they changed it over? Like-
How is the,
What, because you're just doing nasal, right?
we do the nasal Narcan,
Yeah.
yes, and we have nasal Narcan in every building, and then all of us licensed nurses also carry Narcan on our person at all times, along with the SROs, they carry Narcan also. And luckily, we've not had to, my department has not had to use it, luckily.
I'm a little concerned hearing that we don't track the number of people and who specifically has CPR certification. I could imagine a
I
situation
mean, I
where
keep
a
track
kiddo's-
of everyone that we teach.
but
So
they-
if we have
so-
certified them, then I have that list. If they receive their certification through Misha, because they take the course online, then I do not have an ongoing list of every single person that coaches a Misha sport or sponsors.
So this is more for, I guess, the administration. Why couldn't we require them to hand that certificate in so that we can maintain that?
Probably be
an
just as
accurate
easy
list?
to have the activities director just forward me a list of everyone that coaches.
Either way,
Because
what
they
I
have
want is
to
an
be.
accurate list, because if
Yes.
I've got a kid that's hurt, I want somebody to know where to go.
Yes.
So if there's a way to make that happen, that would be awesome.
Very good.
I think it was last week, another board member and I were hit with several complaints around lice
Right?
in a building and the lack of communication. Is that something that falls under the health
Yes,
room?
yes,
Or
and,
how would that go out typically? Would that go out through the
Never.
principal of the building? or
No.
How's that work?
Head lice, a case of head lice is only communicated to the parents of the student that has head lice, and any of the students that live in that household are also checked, and then it's communicated with them. Like, normally what we would do is check students that set around that student, like in an elementary where the kids all set pretty close together. We would check the kids that sat in the pod with that student or in that direct vicinity, or kids that we know they play with on a regular basis. We would check those type of people. Middle school and high school is completely different since they rotate and change. But as far as communication, that is not something that we ever do because of the panic. If you send, unfortunately, people are more afraid of head lice than they are of getting a communicable disease. That's just how it is. So it's just something that we've always kind of just kept quiet. And there is actually a statement on a procedure. Our procedure statement is on the website that talks about head lice and what we do about it and what we don't do about it. And it specifically says on there that we do not communicate that out in a group.
So I think there's some miscommunication then about the communication, because when others were asked at the administrative level, the answer was yes, of course, we send communication out to the entire classroom, which does not sound like that's accurate.
No.
But we would do that. We would do that if we had an outbreak within that classroom or we had evidence that there was spread within that classroom. But in the
If there was school, yes.
Yeah, if there was school spread, then we
spread,
would do
yes.
that. But we don't,
Then-
we're not gonna tell the families of 25 kids that one of the classmates has head lice. That we're not going to do.
Yeah, and it's a fine line with privacy and other issues. You want to respect the rights of that kiddo that has been infected. But, so you mentioned that you do report potential disease
To the health
to
department.
the health department.
We do not report head
But-
lice.
Right, but, so anything else, any other disease, you're reporting that to the
Mm-hmm. Yes.
the Jackson County
Health department,
yes, but
every
that is
Friday,
not
yes.
published for parents to see either. I mean, it's public
It's
record,
it's
but,
published through Jackson County.
Okay.
But it's not just published for, I don't know if they publish it by school or just by county. But it
Okay.
will say how many have been reported in eastern Jackson County by schools. But I don't know if it will actually spell it out by Green Valley.
Doesn't
Blue
drill down,
Springs. I
yeah.
think we're all kind of lumped in together.
okay.
But they've always tracked symptomatic, like we report nausea, vomiting, fevers, things like that. And they start calling us immediately if our numbers drastically increase, which it has in the past. Many, many years ago, we had the H1N1 epidemic and almost had to close a couple of our buildings because it got so bad. They knew it was coming weeks before it hit the community because of the school numbers,
So who makes that decision then?
the health department.
To close a building?
Well, the health department used to say that they would close the building if they had to. But with all of the stuff that happened during COVID with the health department, I don't know that they actually have the authority to do that. Dr. Welly, I don't know if you know the answer to that, but.
Yeah, I don't-
I don't think that they can force us to close,
Right.
but they can make a recommendation.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's my understanding
Yes,
too.
yes.
Okay.
And the last time we had something that was a high enough number that they even considered closing is it was literally like 50-60% of the building was out. And I think that was due to the employee problem was worse than the student problem because it obviously is going to trickle down to the poor staff. So we didn't have the staff to,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Appreciate the answers. Any other
Sure.
questions?
I was interested in this, I don't know who is responsible for this, but located resources cover all the Narcan, EpiPens, and albuterol at no cost.
yeah.
Is that just the community came forward and did that? Is that something that
No,
you went out and-
we have found sources to pay for those. So we've gotten them through grants. We've gotten some of them through North Kansas City Hospital. We partnered with them to come out and do community education at the police department. They came out and did a class that they opened to the entire community. And because we helped them get the word out and sponsored that and had them come and talk to our community, they provided us with, I think, 47 Narcan kits. So, and they told us that they would continue to do that until they expire, and then they would replace them. So they said they would continue to do that. So to my knowledge, we shouldn't ever have to pay for Narcan. When we first started looking at carrying it, we were gonna have to pay for it, and when we contacted the local pharmacy in Green Valley, it was gonna cost us around $35 per Narcan kit. And like most of our medications that are like that, it's something that you want to have on hand, but you don't want to have an excessive amount on hand because most of it gets thrown away as it expires. And EpiPens especially have a very short shelf life. And at $160-some an EpiPen. Our EpiPens, right now, we are getting through a program called EpiPens for Schools. And that is a federally funded grant program that is providing us with those. I just have to fill out reports constantly about if we're using them and why we're not using them. And the same with our asthma medication. Our asthma medication is coming through a program in St. Louis that was a grant program started specifically for schools to carry albuterol. And they started providing us with albuterol with nebulizer machines. So every building got a brand new nebulizer machine. We got several sets of tubing and masks and everything that we could possibly need. And we got liquid albuterol breathing treatments. Then the companies decided to quit sponsoring that portion of it. So we were able to keep all the equipment, But as that expires, we'll get rid of that. So that's actually been taken out of our procedures. We don't have the albuterol nebulizer serum anymore, but we still have albuterol inhalers.
And you foresee that just being an ongoing?
I'm hoping that they continue to pay for those. Yeah. Yeah, if in the future we have to start paying for those, we will look for other alternatives to pay for them, because it does get quite expensive. But we have had to use them quite a bit. I think we've had 5 students have pretty significant asthma attacks and 1 employee
And
have
just
a
keep those in all
significant.
the buildings?
It's in the health rooms in the emergency medication cabinet. Everybody has a marked cabinet with their emergency meds in it. And most of our kids that have asthma have their own inhalers, but inevitably they forgot it that day or left it at home, or theirs was empty in their backpack and they forgot to tell mom. There's always something. And the employee that we had knew that she had asthma, but she hadn't had to use an inhaler in years. So something set it off one particular day, and she had a pretty significant asthma attack at school. So it kind of saved us an ambulance call on her. So I was really glad we had it.
Sorry, one more. So with the AEDs, just preventative maintenance and the pads and everything, do you have a budget for that, or is that something
Yes.
that's covered?
Yep, it's in the budget, and we have a contract with AED Authority, a company that manages all of our, they make sure that, like, every month I have to go in and do fill out a form that all of our AED machines have been checked and inspected, make sure that the correct lights blinking and that the AED pads and stuff aren't expiring. And then they also, which I keep a spreadsheet on that, but they also send me reminders, like 3 or 4 months before they will expire, they'll send me a reminder that I've got an AED getting ready to expire, and they automatically ship me those pad replacements and the battery replacements for those. And if I do have a problem, like we had one at the bus barn a couple of weeks ago that the batteries went dead in and they shouldn't have. I mean, they didn't expire for like another year. So I called them and told them that we were having an issue, and they just automatically shipped me new batteries. And I've actually had a broken machine that I've called on and said, hey, I've got a wrench. My machine is not working. Instead of a green light, it's showing me a wrench, and they just shipped me a new machine. So that's all, at this point, that's all been included in our annual fee for maintenance. And what did we decide that was, Nick? It was less than $5,000, which, like $4,500 a year is what we pay to have. And I think we have 14 machines, if I'm correct, or 15 now. So, a full machine, yes. The one that we had at the football field this year that got taken out and vandalized, they replaced that one, no questions asked, and that was a brand new, expensive machine. I mean, that was like a $3,800 machine that got trashed. And they replaced it, shipped me a new one immediately. So I think it's worth the money to pay an annual fee, not to mention the fact that just the pads and batteries are around $300 a pop. So by the time I do that for 17 machines once a year, I think it's well worth it to pay an annual fee and have someone manage it. They've been very helpful with replacing anything that they've needed so far, so.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Do you help with the certification of CPR, because seniors are required to, does
The seniors are required to be exposed to hands-only CPR.
Right.
They don't have to do the full certification. So they allow the health teachers to cover that in curriculum.
Gotcha.
Now, up until it was added to our curriculum, Robin and I would do every senior's class every year.
Right.
And we had to track exactly which seniors showed up and which ones didn't. We would have to track them down. So I was really glad when it was added to the health
That makes sense.
curriculum.
Yeah.
But yeah, up
Just curious
until
if that was you guys or not.
it was in the curriculum, we taught, I think 4 or 5 years in a row, we taught until we got caught up to where the freshmen were then seniors, and we didn't have to redo it, but yeah. So normally we don't do a lot of students other than these students, and I don't remember the name of the class, forgive me, but is it child development where they go to a daycare? and do a preceptorship or whatever, those students all have to be CPR certified to step foot in. So I do teach that for their teacher. And those students are required to pay for their own certification card, which through the American Heart Association, because we are a school district, I can get, instead of $17.50 a card, I can get them for $5 if it's for a school district employee. So it's a good deal. So those kids all get CPR certified for 2 years for $5, and you can't beat it. And they don't have to pay anything for us to teach it. So.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next under reports would be the annual priorities.
Yes, so we set these priorities in the fall of each year. We have 6 priorities this year. We last gave the board a progress update in November, so we're going to give you your next update now, and then we expect there to be another update again in April. So if you will, I'm going to draw your attention to where it says Priority 1. This is our academic MTSS, or multi-tier system of support. And then the third column shows the measures. So we have 4 measures for this priority, and these are 4 targets of where we want to be by the end of the school year. Down at the bottom, you see a November update, and then following that is the February update. And so the numbers of the February update correspond with the 4 targets for year-end targets. So I'm going to kind of go through that. And even the words February update are in green just to kind of send a signal that we're on track for meeting our year-end goal on this one overall. So number 1, teachers at the elementary middle schools received scenario training and problem-solving teams by mid-November. They also had follow-up sessions on January 3rd at each of the middle schools. Those participants have also since participated in a survey, and that's going to help inform some follow-up training for the middle schools. Then for number 2, the latest cohort of teachers in the Orton-Gillingham reading training is wrapping up, and year 2 letters reading training is also completed, and we plan to get another cohort of Orton-Gillingham started either later this spring or summer. That has a little bit to do with teachers' availability. So whoever the next round of teachers are that want to participate, we just try to catch them when they have availability to do that. For number 3, we wanted to just circle around and let you know that we continue to do the reading success plans that have started in the last couple of years. Those have been updated at semester, and parents whose kids are on one of those plans has received feedback on their child's progress. And then for number 4, the student data dashboard, including the iReady, has been reviewed for its implications for kids in grades K through 6 within tiers of support to close that gap individually. So that's our update on priority 1. I'm just going to kind of move through kind of at a higher level. You're welcome to interrupt me at any time, and you know we have 2 assistant superintendents who are going to help me answer all your hard questions. Priority number 2 is curriculum audit and a 3-year plan for aggressively making sure that we have up-to-date curriculum for every course that we teach. The curriculum, as I remind you, serves as the foundation for our district's renewed focus on grading and feedback. That's one of the things we talked about last summer was our standards-based or standards-referenced grading. And a couple of you have reached out and asked me about standards-based grading recently. And so we're going to report on that at an upcoming school board meeting so that we can kind of revisit where we are right now with grading and feedback, what's next, and where we're headed in the future with that. So we can kind of have that discussion at the board level. So we have 2 measures for curriculum, and the audit is complete, and the courses for summer writing have been identified. I'm sorry. Elementary science and social studies begins this month. That's what I was looking for, because that group was in here working the other day, and I was so, as a recovering middle school social studies teacher, I was so excited to see social studies curriculum being developed, and they were very much into it. So that's pretty good. And number 2, the curriculum review committee is scheduled to meet again in April to review any curriculum again before it comes back to the board in the spring. Priority number 3 is to implement and evaluate our new Character Ed program, which is K through 12. And teachers were recently provided a survey to give feedback on their use of the character education resources. And the feedback will be analyzed to give additional support and make decisions regarding next year's implementation. And the administration is beginning to examine data, including office referrals, to evaluate the effectiveness of the character education resources. I will tell you, just doing the roundings, the quarterly roundings with groups of teachers, this has been a huge win. This is something that teachers have seen the need for, where everybody gets on the same page about how we're teaching kids how to interact with each other, how to self-regulate, how to reach out for help. So everybody's been really thrilled that we're all on the same page. And I think the bonus is, because our teachers, they all want to do this, but where a system like this derails is if it adds another prep to them. Like if they have to generate the material, then that's where you lose that continuity. And it's also just where you kind of just lose the spirit of the win, because it's created a lot of extra work. And we just feel really, really blessed that the resources are, especially, so the K-5 is like right out of the box. The character's strong, the teachers are responding to it very well. The Human Connection Hub for 6 through 12, that one was off to a little bit of a slower start, but now we feel like everybody's kind of getting a groove on that, and that's the one we're kind of evaluating moving forward about how to support, especially at the middle school level, to make sure that those teachers aren't having to work extra hard in order to do the right thing. So we feel pretty good about how that's going. Priority number 4 is providing professional development for behavior supports for our students. And administrators have received training on reentry plans and Tier 2 behavior supports. They did that in November and again in January. And then small group classroom visits by administrators are underway to monitor fidelity and identify needed supports for teachers. We're evaluating tools for middle school Tier 2 groups for possible implementation next school year. So what they're realizing is, as they're doing the whole group instruction for behaviors, and they've identified a handful of kids that all have the same kind of, I hate to use the word deficiency, but they have the same goal in mind that these kids would benefit from. Again, we want that like right off the shelf kind of helpful resource, so that whoever's facilitating those groups of middle school kids, they have everything they need, and it works its magic with the group. You know, these things take time, and if the teacher is having to, again, generate the materials and the resources and the strategies, then you're less likely. You're not really setting your people up for success. So we do feel good about how that progress is going. Priority number 5 is our long-range facilities plan. Dr. Gooch and I met with architects yesterday afternoon to kind of give us a preview. It's kind of branching off into 2 different things. There's the long-range facilities plan, which they're on track for coming back to the board yet this spring and kind of giving the board an update long-range facilities plans. And what this will do for our district is it'll give us an indication of how do we know when we need elementary number 5? How do we know if and when we ever need a second high school? Those are the 2 questions I get asked the most often. And that's what this long-range plan will do. It'll give us those triggers, those benchmarks of when to do that. The second kind of branch off of that has been the work that we would do to prepare for a possible bond issue in the spring of '26. So this would be with whatever our bonding capacity is at that time, then we check off the next round of priorities. So I'll remind the board that some of the things that we've been working towards are, although we are not ready to build elementary number 5 from our demography study, we realize that would be probably an overcommitment to build another elementary school at this point. We are still approaching capacity at the elementary level, and so the architects are working with us on creative solutions on how we can expand our elementary capacities without building a new elementary school at this time. So it's kind of a, yes, we're looking long-range plan, but you have some immediate needs right now. Other things we're looking at is early childhood, and then we've also talked about the need to provide facilities for some middle school activities. So those are kind of the big 3. Did I miss any of the big 3? We also talk about middle school needs and high school needs on that, but those are but the other 3 are the bigger priorities. So That's number 5. And then finally is implementing our safety plan. Made a lot of progress on this, and the last time, it was maybe in December, we had a priority list in front of the board of possible projects as we wrapped up the bond funds from 2023. I think that was the December meeting. But those are listed down below. We have since trained all of our staff on the use of the Raptor app. That is a game changer. So any of our employees can now initiate an evacuation at a building because of what they're seeing or experiencing or anything in their senses that, or a lockdown drill. So very, very powerful, great use of technology there. And then we've implemented monthly tabletop crisis planning exercises with our building level administrators. Those are going very well. We're having some great discussions with those. The phase 1 window film updates at all of our facilities is completed, and phase 2 window film is soon to be underway. So, in fact, you authorized that bid tonight, so we're ready to roll. Classroom phones are being ordered. All of our classrooms will have phones, made possible again with the bond revenue. Our bus camera system is, it's hard to believe that it needs to be updated. How many years was that? Is it 8 years, 9 years? And so, you know, there's a lot of changes that have happened in those systems, and so it's time for an upgrade. So we're thrilled to have that. So that system is ordered. And then I know this sounds like a simple thing, but you put it at the scale of a district, it takes a little bit of work. But numbering all of our exterior doors so that they're standard with what first responders have come to understand. And when you leave tonight, if you look at all of our exterior doors on this building, it's kind of the same idea. Your main entrance on the front of the building is 1-1, and then you work your way clockwise on the presumably 4 sides of your building. Number 2, building level EOP work. That's with the Missouri School Boards Association's Emergency Operations Plan technology. So that building level work is now completed. That took quite a bit of work. And EOP, it's now in there, so they're now reviewing what has been entered to date, and they're going to get back to us with some feedback and see if we missed anything. And then integrating our trauma response plan and crisis response plan into the EOP, that's being done at this time. And then they're looking at other related plans, and Dr. Gooch kind of has taken the lead on this to make sure all these things get shored up through the course of the year. So again, we're on track with those. That's a quick rundown of our 6 priorities, and we would certainly entertain any questions that you have on any of those.
Questions, anyone? Okay.
Thank you.
Move to new business and priority new full-time employee positions for 25-26.
Really, this effort starts in October each year, where we start reflecting with building level administrators about reflecting on the staffing decisions we made for the current year, and then as we're planning ahead for the year ahead to see, you know, what is needed. So throughout the whole page, you have a list of all those positions that get requested. Some of these are on the list because they're brought up at a program evaluation before the board, or they're brought up by the board itself. So, but then what we do by January and February is we're starting to say, okay, what of everything we wish we could do, what are the highest priorities? So there's 2 lists on here. There's the list at the top, which we've kind of earmarked as a cabinet of what we deem as the priorities for next year at this point. They're not ranked in any particular order. And then the rest that are below the line, literally below the line, those are at the bottom. And again, they tend to be grouped by similarity, but they're not ranked in any particular order down there either. So the list that we generated at the top, this was prior to the governor's State of the State address. What I will tell you is now that we know that his proposal to the legislature did not include the second half of the SAT multiplier funding, which is a shortfall of about $300 million for the foundation formula for next year. I am less enthusiastic about how lengthy the list is up at the top. But that being said, there's going to be some other ambitious asks of the legislature. And so we might just be dealing with a little strategy right now by having the governor withhold withhold a commitment of the SAT funding, because when we ended the last legislative session, it looked like we were an all go on that. So we will know more in the next month or so about how it looks for the SAT funding. It's the legislature who takes the governor's report, and they actually build the budget and give it back to the governor, and then he'll decide yay or nay on that. So not all is lost on funding the SAT multiplier, but that multiplier, where that really hits home for us, is to be able to grow positions like what we have on this list, and to be able to give our teachers the next level of raises to kind of keep that new salary schedule competitive. We're really counting on the second half of that SAT for us to stay competitive. Doesn't mean we can't operate next year without it. We're just going to operate without growing our staff and without giving significant raises. So it doesn't mean we can't survive. What I hope to do as soon as 2 weeks from now at your business meeting is to come back with 2 or 3 of these at the top of this list, so that we can be competitive, getting them. So I'm going to ask you to commit to 2 or 3 positions right away before we approve the budget for next year, which we don't approve until June, so that we can get competitive. But we're going to commit these funds. So I want to give you a preview. If I was giving you a recommendation tonight, the first one says 1 to 2 special education teachers. So I'll probably come back to you in 2 weeks with one request for 1 special education teacher. One we know we are going to need. The second one, we're just looking into our crystal ball, and it looks like we're going to need a second one, but it's not urgent. The second one I'd probably bring back to you in 2 weeks is the high school English language arts teacher. And then the third one I would bring to you is an elementary teacher, 1 elementary teacher of the 1 to 2 that is listed. Now, from a budgetary standpoint, I don't have too much heartburn over those 3 right now. For the simple fact is, we've also made kind of an assessment of where we stand with all of our FTEs and what we need next year, what we don't need. And we actually will expect to go down 1 classroom, 1 kindergarten teacher. And so really, even though I'm going to ask you to approve a new FTE in 2 weeks, I really wouldn't have to, because I could really just reassign an FTE from kindergarten to 4th grade. What grade do we need? 4th grade? We need a 4th grade teacher. So the kindergarten teacher that we don't need next year has already got a different assignment that's not 4th grade. But we need a 4th grade teacher. So I kind of like the symbolism of having you vote to authorize the FTE, but from a budget standpoint, it's going to be a wash. And then for the high school English teacher, we actually have a middle school theater speech teacher that we are going down 1 position next year. We currently have 2, 1 at each middle school, but due to class sizes and demand, and it's a history of low demand, that we're gonna actually go down to 1 FTE on that. And that's already been settled. Those 2 teachers already know what they're teaching next year, but that FTE is out there, and so we can add a high school English teacher with no impact on the budget next year. And then the third one would be the special education teacher. So really what I'm probably bringing you next time is 3 teachers with a budget impact of 1 teacher. And then we can get those jobs posted, and we can try to get the best candidates right away. I will say, I said they weren't in any particular order with the news from the governor on not funding the second half of the SAT growth multiplier. I would probably, I'm most reluctant to add the high school administration intern. That would probably be the one. We've talked about several of these other things. We do need technology department needs a system administrator. And this, really, we've added so many different ads of whether it's curriculum resources or other online tools, that we're really at the point that we need somebody full-time just managing those pieces. And so that's what that would do for us. Special ed paraprofessionals, we always just hire as we need paraprofessionals. So whether I tell you we're going to hire more or not, we're going to have, it's going to happen. And then at the high school level on the administrative team, we're tossing around the idea of, we have 3 assistant principals, and we'd like to designate one as as associate. And what this would do, it kind of designates for everybody involved. It's a big staff there. There's a lot of students. It kind of designates that you've got your principal, and then you've got the right-hand person, and then you have the other assistant principals. From a budget standpoint, the only budget implication to designate somebody as the associate is that we would have this person come in 5 additional days to work closely with the principal in the summertime. We're going to pay them at their assistant principal rate for 5 more days. So it's not a different pay scale. It also, we made it clear that if we move in this direction, when we name an associate principal, that in no way is saying that we're designating who the next principal is. It's not a succession plan move. It's really just a leadership and management kind of move. And then, of course, we've had a lot of discussion about expanding middle school activities, opportunities. And so if we do everything that we want to do for next year, that would be 4 middle school coaches, and you see the dollar impact there. So I don't see any reason why we can't move forward with that when the time comes. But we don't need to post those jobs now, so I won't bring those to you until later in the season. So, and even though the total estimate for the list up above is $639,000, the range on that is anywhere from $400,000 to $639,000. So it's not necessarily, we're not necessarily going to fill all those positions, but those would be our priorities if we were. What questions do you have for me on any of that?
Any questions?
Yeah, do you have candidates for the coaching one? Like, is there anybody that's already talking about doing it?
We have people who have expressed interest in several of those positions. In fact, as part of our motivation for growing the programming is because we already have people that we know could step in. I wouldn't call them candidates yet, but we have people we have interested parties who I'm sure would be be given strong consideration for those.
Any other questions?
Are we considering adding another SRO next school year?
They are on the list, but at this point, it's not at the top of the list. We are just now at our 4. Like, we just now have our 4th person like on the ground. And so what we would like to do is kind of have this semester where we kind of evaluate where we're at and our usefulness of that. So we definitely don't want to take it off the list. We just hadn't moved it to the top yet.
I just remember that audit, I think, what was the minimum, like 5.7, is it right, 6? So I didn't know if there was a definitive path to get to the minimum requirement from the third-party audit.
We expect that we're going to get to 5. It's just a matter of how quickly do we get to 5. But yeah, we definitely want to have that conversation again this spring, I think, as we're working through the budget. I wouldn't say no.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. The amended 24-25 school district calendar.
Yeah, we brought this on today as an action item. This is the reason why tonight's agenda was amended. This wasn't originally on the draft agenda. With our weather event this week, we now have 1 day that we need to make up. The board's previously approved calendar already has April 18th and the 21st, the Monday and Friday around Easter, as designated snow makeup days. Excuse me, and then 4 days following Memorial Day. So another district actually gave us this idea because we heard that another metro district was looking at President's Day, and we thought, oh, maybe that would be preferred over coming back after Memorial Day, because we have winter weather in the forecast again next week, the bane of my existence. But it's possible we could be out a day or two next week, either because of weather or a parade or whatever. And so what we'd like to have the board do tonight is to amend the calendar to designate President's Day as a snow makeup day. Doesn't mean we're going to use it. I think we're probably going to use it, but it doesn't It doesn't obligate us to use it. Then tomorrow morning, we would launch a survey to all of our families and all of our staff, and we would remind them, we had 6 AMI days, we've used them. We've taken another day that we're gonna have to make up. There's probably gonna be additional days. So we're gonna ask in the survey, if we end up with, say, 3 days that we need to make up, please rank on the list below your preference on how we make up these days. And we would include President's Day, April 18th, April 21st, and then as one category, we would just say the Tuesday through Friday following Memorial Day, and just see how it ranks out. And the way we do the surveys, we'll say, you know, tell us who you are. I think we can ask them if they're a parent. I don't know if that's on there yet, but we can say, are you check all that apply, parent, employee, student, other, because who knows who the survey goes to. So we could say, you know, the staff kind of leans towards this and the parents kind of lean towards this. It'd be helpful information. We always talk about asking people for input on the calendar, but they never participate in it until it's meaningful to them. I think tomorrow morning is meaningful to everybody because we've been living through these snow days and we're on the eve of Super Bowl. So I think we'll get good participation. And then whatever we decide from there, we could communicate either Sunday night, or we could communicate sometime next week. But we'll have the results. We can say the survey is open through the day on Friday. We could say it's open 24 hours so that we can look at it over the weekend during halftime show. Well, we don't want to miss the halftime show. So the action we'd ask the board to take would be to approve the amended school district calendar, which all it does is adds the designation of President's Day as a snow makeup day, is all you'd be doing tonight. And then we do that, and then I want to have a sidebar conversation about Parade Day if it was needed. But that would be the action. What questions do you have about President's Day?
Yeah.
Would we be taking an action on just for this year, or taking an action that would allow President's Day for upcoming?
Well, we're going to talk about next year's calendar next, and I don't think it's designated on next year's calendar, but if you like the idea, I think we would just roll it into next year's calendar and do the same thing. Because it kind of comes at a good time. I don't want to take President's Day unless we had to. We've had a lot. I mean, I don't have to tell anybody that we've had a lot of snow days. So,
Entertain a motion to approve the amended 24-25 school district calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
all right. Thank you.
What was that?
Were you opposed?
Okay. Okay. Okay, that will take us to the 25-26 calendar draft.
Yeah, the team has been working on this. We have representatives from each of the schools that participate in a calendar committee that Dr. Gooch leads. The two main things that are happening on this calendar is it's new this year, the 169 days. When we achieve 169 student contact days, and this was put in place to incentivize us to not go to a 4-day school week. I mean, that's basically why we have this new law. If we have students in class for 169 days, then we get an extra 1% of our June state payment. And that money is earmarked for improving teacher pay. So it's a nice financial incentive that's north of $200,000 that we would get. And we really want to get that money and we want to apply it towards teacher pay. So, so we really want to protect 169. We struggled with it this year, so now we're kind of in that situation where we had exactly 169 days. And so I like being able to say on a beautiful snowy morning, this is not an AMI day, kids. It's just a snow day. And the other thing is you can't use AMI there's restrictions on the use of AMI. So for example, anytime there is a Chiefs parade, you cannot use AMI for something like that. You can only use it for weather events or other things on the list that hopefully we never have to deal with. So, so what this calendar does, it gets us to 171 student contact days. So that gives us a buffer of 2 extra days. The calendar basically follows the same framework as this current year's calendar. And the other thing is, because from year to year things change, we lost 2 other days in this calendar. And so for the current year, we have 2 early release days, the last day of first semester and the last day of second semester. They're both 3-hour early release days. This calendar for next year adds 4 more early release days, because that's how we pick up 4 more student contact days, and the second half of those days we use for professional development or teacher work days. Now, the amount of time, we're certainly committed to professional development and providing our teachers with work time, but the amount of time this calendar would provide our teachers is a little less, but it still keeps us with periodic professional development, and we feel pretty good about it. Another year after this, maybe the calendar falls differently, and we don't need this many early release days. But that's really the main thing that is different about this calendar. And then the other thing that, like we just talked about, we could come back in and we could say, this President's Day is a snow day, makeup day. We could do that too. So it's not an action item tonight. We just kind of wanted to get it in front of you. But it is something we would probably bring back in 2 weeks as unfinished business, so that we can have a discussion and a vote. And our families are already asking about next year's calendar, that those requests get sooner every year. And so we would take your questions, your feedback, and come back to you with a final plan in 2 weeks.
Any discussion? Nope. Okay. The MSBA Spring Virtual Meeting.
Yeah, these next 4 items, this is the time of year where we just like to get these things on your calendar. MSBA is doing a virtual meeting again. This one's on February 13th at 6 o'clock. I got a postcard, a physical postcard in the mail. I don't know if board members, if you did, but you're probably going to start seeing reference to this in your email alerts from MSBA. But if you're interested in this, I think you can enroll yourself. If you do that, let Ms. Clappin know. And if you would like her to enroll you, you could do that too. And then the next one is the virtual lunch and learns. Those happen periodically throughout the spring. And then we have Advocacy Day on March 11th. If any of you would like to go to Jefferson City that day to meet with our representatives to advocate for public schools, public school funding, let Ms. Clappin know. We'll get you registered for that. And then just to preview, the Summer Institute in Branson is June 16th through the 18th. If anybody's considering that, be sure to let us know, and we'll get you penciled in.
Questions? Comments? Nope. Okay. Board policies. Let's see. IGBH.
This is a first read for this policy. We initiated it locally to do the updates, but it's because our policy language was not aligned with the latest updates from DESE. So we thought MSBA would take the lead on this, but they said they did not have it on their radar. So I imagine when we make revisions, it's probably going to trigger them to make revisions that they put out to everybody. We just happen to put eyes on this. So this just updates the language. I don't know that there are really any earth-shattering changes here. It's just aligning it to have it be more consistent with state language. And although it's the first read, if the board is comfortable with it, bringing it back next time, we would put it on consent agenda unless we needed to talk about it again.
So our process is to have 3 reads, right?
That's been our
I
typical
would,
practice.
I would stick with the process.
Okay. So
I know it just takes longer and
Yeah.
but yeah.
we're on our tiered monitoring for our accountability. So we're referencing we'll just submit. We'll do what we have to do on our end, but that means the board wouldn't talk about this again until April.
If there's a legitimate reason to to vary from policy, I'm okay with that, but we
Okay.
need to probably address that we are altering our policy for the, or process, not really policy, process for this.
Yeah. Dr. Allen, how critical is it that we approve the language sooner?
Well, we're required to submit our current board policy with our tiered monitoring that's due February 15th. So we have our old policy to attach. What we were going to do was attach our new one, because one of the big updates in this, which is not that big, but for us is big, is just the role of our ELD coordinator, which is Danny Collier. And so she's not acknowledged in this at all.
Okay,
And so she's a large part of our LAO plan that we're attaching and putting in part of our tiered monitoring. So we're just trying to kind of, smooth things out and make everything make sense, to say we were just waiting on final approval, but here's our draft. I mean,
Yep.
we can still put it in draft form in there.
I think if we need that, if we need to, I don't want to overdo this, but don't put it in consent agenda. Let's talk about it.
There you go.
And then we can vote on it. I
That makes
think
sense.
That makes sense, but I wouldn't
Yeah, that's fine.
do a consent agenda item. I've
Fair
learned my
enough.
lesson on skipping readings. It's burned me before.
Fair enough. Other questions?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So you said we wouldn't approve it till April? But we could have it on the agenda for our board meeting, right?
Yeah, that's what Jared
That's what Jared
was-
just said?
Yeah. he
And then
was-
we
yeah.
still have one meeting in March, so then potentially it would be approved in March then?
We could do that. Typically, when we have this discussion where we talk about the language, is usually at a workshop, and our
Right.
next workshop's in April.
Gotcha, okay.
So, but we'll accomplish all of it. We'll
Yeah.
bring it back next time, and you can decide either next time, we'll list it as an action item, but you could decide to take action or roll it into the next meeting.
Okay, yeah,
That way, you're not approving it after just one read.
okay. Okay, so that would bring us to JFCL, A+ scholarship program.
Yeah, the rest of these are all second read, so this is our normal process. These are recommendations. MSBA initially put this out to us with some recommendations, but when our staff got eyes on it, they're like, there's enough tweaks we want to make on this. So before we shared it with the board, this is your second read, but before we shared it with you the first time, we took some extra time with it. So the main thing is the citizenship component. So you can see updated in green how we just highlighted it to update it to our current process.
Any questions on JFCL? Okay. So on the rest of these, do you want me to go down the whole list? Do you have changes on all of them, or?
I will say, let me talk about all of them collectively. So
Okay.
most of this MSBA 2024 D series is driven by Senate Bill 727. And so the summaries at the top of each one that are in gray, those are kind of that's the narrative of why you're seeing this now. That's not actually the policy language, but that's the summary. So these all have to do with Senate Bill 727, which was an omnibus bill, so it has a whole bunch of things in it. I don't think there's anything in here that is a monumental shift. But there are some curious things that are changed in the language. But I think then from there we just go one by one and just see if anybody has any questions or any discussion based on what you've seen highlighted.
So has everyone looked at these? I don't want to go through them if we're not going to discuss them. So, okay, I'll start it. BBBB. Any questions on that one? Okay.
Wait, Stringler, sorry. What would be the benefit of changing the district name? Is that a thing or has been a thing somewhere?
There's always been a process for it, but I think they're just kind of drawing attention. I don't know who would have changed their name. We refer to ourselves as Grain Valley Schools or the Grain Valley School District. Traditionally, we've been known as Grain Valley R5. Our legal name is the Reorganized District Number 5 of Jackson County. doesn't even say Grain Valley in it. So, but that applies to so many school districts in the state that I suppose if we felt strongly that we wanted to change our legal name to either Grain Valley Schools or Grain Valley School District, there's a process to do that, but there's no, I've not felt strongly enough to recommend it, but if the, you know, so. Mm-hmm.
Is it a DBA thing, like on legal documentation? The Green Valley, sorry, I really didn't mean to get into this.
No,
That
we've-
sparked my interest, and I didn't know if it happened.
The only time, anything we're doing with DESI, we're always Grain Valley R5 because, or anything taxes or revenues or things like that, we're Grain Valley R5. But we've actually trademarked Grain Valley Schools. So we've kind of branded ourselves as Grain Valley Schools or Grain Valley School District. So I think even if we legally change the name of the school district, there's still going to be 3 other ways we're referred to by different parties.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Since he opened this Pandora's box, is that why the buses are
Still
written
say
that way?
R5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions on BBBB? Okay. BDC.
They really just added 2 more things that are protected by closed session is basically what they did.
Okay. DFI.
They just updated they struck the language that was contradictory to the law. This law has changed a couple times in recent years.
Okay. GCBA.
I think this is a curious provision that we could set separate salary for hard-to-fill positions or hard-to-fill schools. I think that's a great tool. We don't happen to be in that situation right now, but I think it's a positive thing that we have that option. Yep. We could literally have a separate salary schedule for special education or math or science or whatever. Now there's cons to that, but so we would invoke that if we needed to.
Okay. IC.
This is one of, I think, 2 policies that just kind of update. This one sets in stone the 169 days, just to make sure that we're not creeping our way into a 4-day school week.
IGCD.
So there was a lot about homeschooling this year, and the main change on this is that there are 2 labels of homeschooling. So this introduces, what's the language? Family-paced education. So it distinguishes family-paced education versus traditional homeschooling if you're going to participate in the voucher program. So the homeschooling community, in the homeschooling community opposed the vouchers because they don't want the state money because they don't want to abide by the same regulations that the public schools do. So what the state did to kind of work around that was, if you're going to take state money, then we're going to classify you as a family-paced education. But if you still want to be just homeschooled and not take the money, then we're going to call you homeschooled. That's what this does.
Okay, any questions on that one? IGCDA.
There's 2 policies regarding virtual courses. This one is for part-time. It kind of changes the rules a little bit. Basically says that we cannot deny a student from enrolling in a MOCAT course simply because we think they should be in a different course or a program. And then it also has, it specifies that they can appeal to the board if we turn them down and they want to appeal that.
Okay, I'm off by 1. So that was, which one was that? Okay, so now IGCDA.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. This is the full-time virtual course policy language. And this one it cleans up a couple of things for us. Basically, if a child has an IEP, it now puts the burden on the host of the virtual program, whereas before it used to be our burden to initiate that. We're still going to be partners on there if we need to be. So it just kind of cleans up the language.
All right, I'm going to keep rolling unless somebody starts talking. JEA,
This is the second one that they just needed to insert the language of family-paced education school along with homeschooling.
JED,
This simply clarifies the language for when we would report a family to Children's Division for the student's lack of attendance. They want to classify it instead of reasonable suspicion to cause to suspect.
JHDF.
So this is suicide awareness. In recent years, the Crisis Lifeline 988 has been implemented, and we've been putting that information on students' ID badges already. This just clarifies the language. There was confusion of where it needed to be on one side of the badge or both sides of the badge, so this just cleans that up.
So, where'd there it is, okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn and go into executive session as authorized by the provisions of section 610.021, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 13 for the revised statutes of Missouri.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Sarah? Okay, Aaron, Julie? Yep, yes, and I'm a yes. Okay, we'll move into executive session. All right, there's all your